Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thought it was about time I got another video up for you all. So, in my time inquiring about the nature of morality and ethics, I've not only formed a solid definition of morality that is true to its fundamental origin, but I can structure it into both a flowchart and an order of principle. Some of you, I expect, have seen the flowchart, but in today's episode I will be focusing on the order of principle. And this is to say, to whom you owe your moral obligations first. So before we begin, I will just reiterate my personal definition of morality. That it is a social contract of cooperation to avoid or mitigate harm being caused in accordance with each other's self-interests. If you look at pretty much every system of morality, it's not really focused on doing good so much as it is about avoiding or mitigating harm. This is drawn from our instinct to avoid being harmed or suffering pain in order to survive and reproduce. And doing good can be a little bit nebulous, more difficult to consistently define what it is to do good than it is to consistently define what it is to cause harm. It's also focused around self-interest because everything we do is out of self-interest. Not selfishness, just self-interest. I've got another video where I explain the difference, but in short, selfishness is to serve your interests at the expense of others. Selflessness is to serve your interests without being at the expense of others. If you self-examine and question why you did a selfless thing, you'll find it's because it's about what you wanted. You wanted to feel good. You wanted to be respected or appreciated. You wanted to set an example or encourage helpfulness, which is all fine. This doesn't dilute the sincerity or importance of selflessness. I'm just simply saying there is a psychological mechanism behind it. Just as there is a psychological mechanism behind selfishness, and that's a person at that time did not care or did not consider the effect their actions have on others. We shorthand selfishness to be serving oneself, but I see it specifically as serving oneself at the expense of others. Now, with all that out of the way, the principle of moral order. And just to clarify, this is only supposed to be a guideline from applied reasoning. So, the first person you owe moral cooperation to is yourself. You must recognize that you are an individual that is deserving of moral consideration just as everyone else is. You don't want to be harmed, and you would like to be given help when you need it, just like everyone else. The second people you owe moral cooperation to is your family. These are people who are closest to you, those who have an instinct to care for you more than anyone else. In this way, I would consider one's lover to be included, as they are generally considered family in most circumstances. The third group of people are your friends. Now, sure, some of these people can also be so close as to be considered family, and we know there are varying degrees to friendships, but they are people you have an invested interest in, as they have an invested interest in you. The fourth category of people is your countrymen. These are your fellow citizens, the men and women of the country you reside. Now, I know that's stating the obvious, but the point is, your country is where you have at least some assurance that you are in a place of common custom, where you can belong and a governing body that has some obligation to protect you and provide services. Which brings us to number 5. Your country. Just as I stated in the previous example, you owe your country moral consideration before all other countries. Not just because you have nowhere else to go, but it is in your interests to maintain the integrity of your country for your continued common place of custom, and reliability of services. And given the state of things, I think it's necessary to clarify your ethnic background is irrelevant. It doesn't matter where you came from or where your parents came from. What matters is where you are now. That is your country. That is your people now. Not the country and the people that was left behind. Now, number 6. Other human beings in general. The point of morality is to avoid or mitigate harm, because our basic instinct is to survive and reproduce. Our chances of success are greatly improved with the assistance of other humans, specifically the humans we can trust most to practice this social contract. We do have some moral obligation to avoid hurting other humans who are not your family, friends, or countrymen, but when it comes to who you care about more, who you would sacrifice for, it's your family, friends, and countrymen who come before everyone else. However, leading into number 7, you care about your own species because the point is for your own species to survive. Number 7, other animals. In short, they are all a different species to us, and in most circumstances should not be given greater consideration than your fellow man. I guarantee you, they don't care about you more than their own kind. True enough, we have mutually beneficial domestic relationships with some of them, and you may care about your pets very deeply. And, of course, those animals in question do deserve greater moral consideration than what you would give other animals. But in general, we owe moral cooperation to humans first. If on the remote chance we encounter alien life, the same rule applies. They would also just be another kind of animal like we are. Our species comes first. The only difference would be how close we become as friends if we establish trade and diplomacy. Then one might feel obligated to elevate them to being more important than other animals. But we'll cross that bridge if or when we come to it. So there it is. The principle of order for where our moral obligations lie. Now, I'm sure some people might be wondering, what about family members I don't like? Or what about criminals? As I said before, this order of principle is a guideline, not a religious hard and fast rule that must be followed to the letter. For those people you don't like, your moral obligations to them are pretty much the basic rule of which you treat everybody, until forced to do otherwise. As for criminals, they have broken this social contract. So the only moral question is a proportional response or punishment, depending on the context. And yeah, sure, that's against the criminal's interests. But as I said, they've already broken the contract. They need to be taught why it's important to abide by it. That or they're unteachable and need to be sectioned off from society entirely. But yeah, that's all for today's episode. Hopefully this is as short as I think it is, because I'll be moving on to another video straight after this. So in the next video, you'll see me all in the same outfit, because this is only going to be like 2 minutes have passed. But who knows? I might make you wait another 3 months before I upload it. Stop it. All right, settle down. Settle down. Don't stress. I'm only joking. Unless something serious happens, I'll be uploading the next video over the next couple of days. Just depends on how long the edit takes with all the other stuff I have to do. I might even be able to just upload them together. But yeah, that's it for this episode. I'll see you in the next one. Get out of here, all of you.